tell it. People on the streets, says Sabrina speaks. Tune into the show, she will let you know. Tell all your friends and family. Real talk is no joke. You get the news straight up from grassroots and concerns. You hear some people gone. So tell all your friends to tune in to
Good evening, Cayman. I'm Sabrina Turner, and welcome to Sabrina Speaks, your daily dose of clarity, truth, and community insights. Every weekday from 5 to 6:30 p.m., we're tackling the issues that affect you, from national headlines to grassroots concerns. Whether you're in traffic or winding down your day, this is your chance to hear it straight and speak your truth. So buckle up, Cayman. We're not holding back.
This is the show. We gotta let you know. Now we got to go.
And now here's Sabrina.
Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to one and all, near and far, and definitely far, because our Sabrina Speaks family from around the world, including the Australian fans and the UK family. Hello, it's good to be back with you on this Hump Day Wednesday. Yes. Welcome to another episode of Sabrina Speaks, Voices of the Islands, Conversations for the World, and the podcast where voices rise, stories unfold, and inspiration takes center stage. I'm your host, Sabrina, and it's good to be back with you today as we continue, oh my gosh, the conversation. Yesterday, even after the show, I was flooded with messages and conversations that actually went into today. I went out on the road for a couple of hours and thank you for all of the feedback too, by the way. And I saw where Sandra's show, OMG, was definitely full of spice. Now, what I noticed with Sandra's show is that she took it, today's conversation went in a direction where real case scenarios were playing out. And if you notice on this space, we were actually saying the same thing pretty much, but from a legislative standpoint, from the legal side of things, that if we don't get it right or have the necessary belts and braces in place, these are the realities that happens. But what is the biggest takeaway for me from yesterday's comments, and also some that were shared with me today, is the increasing amount of persons who are saying that residency, status, permission to remain and reside is actually so rampant out there being sold. And if that is indeed the case, who's responsible for actually holding these acts accountable for their wrongdoing and doing things outside the law? But today is no different. I hope that the conversation continues to be as lively, as informative, as inclusive, which you're all invited to call in, because they say that love knows no borders, but immigration law does, if it is actually held. And in Cayman, the lines between, from what I'm hearing, between romance, residency, and regulations are getting very blurry, it would appear. And yes, what I'm talking about is actually marriage, and the fact still remains that is the number one path to Caymanian status. And that phase 1 amendment of 2025 really came about in order to try and limit the amount of sham marriages and the amount of frivolous marriages and the allegations that are spinning in our society about that. And residency for sale. You ask then, so where's the accountability? Where that accountability should fall and why it hasn't been actually addressed. Is it one of the most difficult things that you can actually prove? Or do we lack the skill sets and manpower to actually hold these people accountable for entering these types of relationships and marriages for the wrong reasons? Well, this evening on Sabrina Speaks, I'm hoping that you will participate in this discussion, and I will be having someone join me as well in studio. And even though the voice is familiar to many, for a different perspective, but the lines will be open, and that is 345 936 8255. And we're no sugarcoating today, none at all. No blame game either. Just facts. Some fire may come because it is very emotive, and fearless conversation. Because if love is real, let it stand. If it's business, let's call it out too. But the phone lines will be open. And again, that's 936 8255 for us to hear what you have to say in regards to this today. The content you're about to hear, including any discussions or opinions from myself, guests, and or participants, is intended solely for general informational and entertainment purposes. It's not a substitute for professional legal, medical, or financial advice. I encourage you to consult with a qualified professional for specific concerns. Bridge Media Limited and all its affiliates disclaims all liability for any decisions or actions taken in reliance on the information presented. 345 936 8255 is a number to be a part of this conversation. Send us a WhatsApp, or you can feel free to comment on whatever social media platform you're streaming us live on today. Before getting into the substantive conversation and headline news that is making today's Sabrina Speaks show, let's take a look at our weather. Compliments of our friends there at the Cayman Islands National Weather Service. And I think that's the wrong image, but I got the latest information anyhow. There's a shear line lingering in the region that will continue to decay and move across the Western Caribbean through this evening, allowing the chance for some isolated showers tonight. Gentle to moderate winds and seas will persist over the Cayman area through the next few days in association with a slackening pressure gradient. Now, the satellite imagery shows scattered low-level clouds across the Cayman area with the widespread saturated clouds noted east of Honduran coast associated with that shear line. The forecast for tonight calls for partly cloudy skies with a 30% chance of showers. Temperatures will fall near the low to mid 70s, and winds will be east to northeast 10 to 15 knots. Seas will be moderate with wave heights of 3 to 5 feet. The forecast for tomorrow calls for partly cloudy skies with a 20% chance of rain, and temperatures will rise to the mid 80s with a heat index of 89. Winds will be east to southeast 10 to 15 knots, and seas will be moderate with wave heights of 3 to 5 feet. There was a high tide at 4:51 this evening. A low tide is expected at 11:44 tonight. Sun will set at 6:28 this evening and rise tomorrow morning at 6:47. The outlook is calling for similar weather conditions through Friday evening. Therefore, remnant moisture lingering from a stationary front over the coast central Caribbean will drift back across the Western Caribbean, allowing for some showers at times through Sunday afternoon. So there you have it. Thanks to our guys over there at the Cayman Islands National Weather Service. Before I shout you all out, I see you piling into class because the conversation's going to get steamy today. Cold hard truth, definitely. And let's take a look at the headlines that are making the news today. In a move, as we've gotten in here, in a move to aim in restoring fairness, yes, clarity, Cabinet has approved amendments, as we have gone through here, in the Immigration Transition Act and clarity. Cabinet has approved amendments to the Immigration Transition Act. Now, the change will protect long-term residents who believe that they qualify for Caymanian status. The change will protect long-term residents who believe that they qualify under the 15-year rule, ensuring that their applications are honored under the law in place at the time. The amendments will also honor under the law in place at the time. The amendments also automatically recognizes anyone born in Cayman on or before March, automatically recognizing anyone born in Cayman on or before the 26th of March, 1977 as Caymanian and no application needed. Government 26 of 1977 as Caymanian, and also no applications needed for that. Now, the government says that these changes will reflect a commitment to transparency and justice in the immigration system. Okay. A British man convicted of human smuggling in the Cayman Islands is now fighting deportation, claiming it would violate his rights as a father. The man, who served time after smuggling 2 Ethiopian nationals aboard a yacht, has filed a court motion to block his removal. He argues deportation would disrupt ongoing child welfare proceedings involving his young daughter, who remains in government's care. He also cites medical concerns and says his removal would breach his constitutional right to family life. The Grand Court is now considering his request. Taking a look into the Caribbean, tensions between the United States and Cuba has escalated sharply following a deadly maritime confrontation in Cuban waters. Now, according to Cuban authorities, a U.S. registered speedboat entered Cuba territorial waters near Villa Clara province earlier today. When approached by a Cuban border patrol vessels, officers say the boat opened fire, injuring a Cuban officer. Cuban officers returned fire, resulting in the deaths of 4 individuals on board the speedboat and injuries to 6 others. The vessel, reportedly registered in Florida, was intercepted within 1 nautical mile of the El Pino Channel. Cuban officials say the incident was a clear violation of their sovereignty and have labeled the response as a matter of national defense. The United States government has yet to issue an official statement. However, Florida Congressman Carlos Jimenez has called the incident a massacre and is demanding an investigation to determine whether any of the victims were U.S. citizens or legal residents. Now, this confrontation comes at a time of heightened strain between Havana and Washington, following recent U.S. sanctions and the capture of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro, a key Cuban ally. Now, this situation remains fluid, and both governments are under pressure to clarify the facts and avoid further escalations. Now, we will continue to follow the story and bring you updates as they develop. Turning our sights over to Jamaica, in Kingston, they are hosting the inaugural Caribbean Civil Society Conference. Representatives from 12 countries are discussing governance, youth empowerment, and the role of civil society in shaping regional policy. Global headlines today, we see where President Donald Trump delivered the longest State of the Union address in the United States history, doubling down on immigration crackdowns and touting economic gains. Now, the speech drew sharp criticism from Democrats, with Representative Ilhan Omar accusing Trump of endangering lives through his immigration policies. Over in Iran, they are reportedly close to purchasing a supersonic anti-ship missiles from China, escalating concerns over regional security and U.S. naval operations in the Middle East. The United States has also begun implementing a 10% global income tariff, with plans to raise it to 15%, sparking fears of renewed trade tensions and supply chain disruptions. Now, in our feel-good news this evening, yes, an Irish politician, Thomas Gold, a member of Sinn Féin, has been flooded with messages of love and laughter from Jamaicans after a speech he gave in the Irish Parliament went viral. Why, you may ask? Now, his Cork accent bears a striking resemblance to Jamaican patois, and social media lit up with comparisons. Now, Gold, who had never noticed the similarity, said he feels overwhelmed and loved by the response, especially from Jamaicans who embraced the connection. He also acknowledged the deep historical ties between Ireland and the Caribbean, including migration of Irish people to Jamaica countries long ago. And also, in a heartwarming moment during a football match in Istanbul, a player paused the game after a soccer ball accidentally struck the seagull mid-flight. Now, the bird fell on the pitch, motionless, but the player rushed over to perform gentle CPR. Reviving the stunned animal, spectators erupted in applause as the seagull regained consciousness and flew away safely. Now, the video has since gone viral with views praising the players' compassion and quick thinking. Now, there you go. That's your news and headlines making today. And yeah, we got to keep it lively despite everything that's happening in the world. Why not have that feel good portion of the news as well? But it's good to have you all here. Connie Bonnie is in the house. Good evening to you. How are you, my love? And you sending special shout outs. You add Dana to it now. Oh my God, why I gotta think about you, Connie Bonnie. Jimbo, Danny Warren Jr., please come to the front of the class. Thank you. So they're calling for Danny. Alfred Real, good evening to you as well. That's the voice of reason. And he has so much brands, but it's good to have you in the house. Marshall, how are you? Good evening. It's good to have you join us as well. Damian Henry, good evening to you as well. Mitzi, good evening. How's life out there? Yes. Well, Danny is in, Connie Bonner. He is here. Wish I could, but I'm busy. So, but he's still listening, Connie. He fast. There we go. Darlene is also here. Yes. We know, he can replay us back, Connie. He'll just come back. Yes, Jimbo is here. Connie, scoot over and make some room. Hey, Donnie, how are you? Hello, Jimbo. Yes, scoot. Yep. Gotcha. It's good to have you all joining me today for this very informative and lively discussion as we're seeing is one thing I'm noticing here locally that as you want conversations, talk about immigration. But for those of you who just joining us, yes, we're stepping into a conversation that Caymanians has whispered about for decades. But to be honest, we rarely confront it. And now I'm seeing and hearing the emotional tones that is coming out of people's voices because we are, again, dealing with immigration. And that's why, we're going to deal with this head on this evening. Love, lust, and immigration. When you look at all of those comparison and the uncomfortable truths about the most intimate parts of our lives and how it intersects with the most powerful part of a state when it comes to immigration reform. And that is why it's so critical, because many have said that they're feeling to the point where Caymanians as a whole have been used. There have been hidden agendas. They feel like they have been used. And we're going to try to just dissect that this evening. But I am hoping that I hear from you because we are hearing that, the first phase of the immigration amendments that was done back in December that were supposed to come into effect on the March 1st that has now been further delayed. That was supposed to be designed to tighten access to the right to be Caymanian and address, of course, sham marriages. Now, that's the official line. But the data shows, and I mentioned it yesterday, shows something totally different because year after year, the largest numbers where status is concerned are coming from marriages to Caymanians. So Caymanians are calling for reform, but the biggest doorway to Caymanian status still is through the door of marriage. And that's not an opinion. That's actually data that is there. And I'm hoping that by this, it would shine a light in this discussion and open up what that means, what that says about us as well. So let's start with it. And like I said, joining me today virtually is the voice that will get a lot of you with maybe goosebumps. I don't know. Chills. I don't know. It all depends. But a voice that has many going and a voice that we appreciate. Always bring value to the conversation. But the phone lines will be open as well. And we want you to participate and join in on this conversation. I welcome to the studio, the one, the only. Just say good evening and they will figure it out themselves. Good evening, my guest.
Good evening, Auntie Sabrina. Good evening, everyone.
There we go. It's so good to have you in here. Yep, sit tight, Connie says. It's good to have you join me on this first time so that we can actually free up the phone lines. And I've thrown the opening out there. And I'm hearing it's almost a spin-off from the conversation that ensued this morning on Sandra's show. And even though you have been very active, you always participate on the Sabrina Speaks show, as we look at it from a legislative standpoint, we have bigger issues at hand here. And I think we need to just own up with some of the problems that we're seeing. And then trying to understand, dealing with people with dignity, but calling it out for what it is. And that is why I'm so happy for you being a male and giving your perspective, sound advice as well, you and many others who chime in on this show. When it comes to exactly what that is about and love overall, when you're actually seeing where the stats don't lie, that Caymanian status numbers are still high, yes, but it's through marriages to Caymanians. So I welcome your input on this, and I know we can go into other areas of people feeling fearful. I heard some of the commenters saying that people are fearful, that they're being used, and the immigration system is there now. We're tightening it up for those persons who got into unions that were obviously for other reasons, and we're going to use the immigration laws now to send them home so they can't take advantage of us anymore. It's a plethora of things. But do you feel enforcement officers and immigration laws should be the ones, be the mediator in relationships that persons choose to enter for other reasons other than what it should be, for gain, for just to help you out because you're a nice person? What's your take on that?
I suppose because you mentioned the word mediator, how my initial question to that would be how does the state, how does the country, how does the government, how does it distinguish between a struggling marriage and a fraudulent one?
Mm-hmm.
And I think, in my view, as somebody who's not in enforcement, I think this is one of the most complex aspects of the enforcement.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can have a genuine marriage that is emotionally distant,
Mm-hmm.
financially imbalanced, a marriage that is short-lived. You could have a genuine marriage that is culturally unconventional. In other words, you tried fitting a square peg in a round hole for love and it just wasn't working out.
Mm-hmm.
Or it's just not working out. But in my view, none of those things automatically indicate fraud
Mm-hmm.
or sham. And based on my understanding and my research, there has to be some objective criteria. For instance, things like, is there a shared residence history? Do they have joint financial obligations? Is there a pattern to their communication? Is there consistency in their interviews? Do we have any documentary records over time? In my view, the system has to focus on measurable indicators rather than subjective impressions.
But
and
we
that's
know
why
that
we need clear guidelines, and the trained case officers are essential.
But people can conform to that and actually do it. Play by all the rules, play by the game, get their Cayman passport, get their UK citizenship, get their status, and then your life is made a living hell. What I'm saying is we're looking at the point where persons, and I'm hearing and I'm seeing the feedback, that persons are actually entering these unions for gain. There is no test, no litmus test any enforcement officer can do if both parties enter it knowing that they're not in it for the right reason and you're just helping out a situation.
But how can anybody ever know that?
Unless it's reported on. But you're hearing how many are out there right now that persons are saying we're entered in for every other reason other than what it should be. Why? I guess you can't really apprehend somebody unless somebody's willing to go and make a formal complaint. But are we actually penalizing good people who entered it for the right reasons with some of the proposals? Well, actually, what has been passed, we still haven't seen the regulations. But because of some of these persons who are entering frivolous relationships, that has now caused the time in which one acquires status 20 years is not going to really solve the problem, is it?
But how do you determine that it's frivolous? I mean, what objective criteria? I mean, in the absence of any sort of objective criteria, I mean, how does anybody determine that a marriage is frivolous or a marriage is fraudulent?
It's really hard unless both of the parties actually say it, which is why I'm saying tightening up the immigration laws on that, understanding that the stats are still showing status being the highest one on the grounds of marriage, is really the way in and the easiest way, because you don't even have to graduate to status. Remember, the residency and employment rights certificate as a spouse of a Caymanian no longer has a 7-year expiry date. That is open-ended. You're still through that facility able to get naturalized, acquire a Cayman passport, get British registration, get a UK passport without ever applying for the right to be Caymanian.
And remind me, hold on. My understanding, well, before the new law, with the 15 years and 20 years thing, was it not the case where it was, if I say I'm an expat and I'm married to a Caymanian, under the old, if I was married to them for 7 years, I get a sort of conditional status that can be revoked, but then after an additional 3 years, I get status outright?
What the law says is that once you were granted Caymanian status, you had to keep that union. The marriage had to be celebrated and in good standing for an additional 3 years for a total of 10. Should it go south, in order for you to keep it. You see what I'm saying? So you meet the 7-year threshold for being eligible to apply for Caymanian status. You get it. But then you need to maintain that marriage, that union, that relationship for an additional 3 years for a total of 10 in order to keep it should the marriage irretrievably broke down. But then we will notice that during that 7 to 10 year period, that expatriate spouse may have already been here legal and ordinarily resident for 15 years. Even if the marriage goes south, and let's say the marriage was not for 10 years totally, right? They still had the opportunity, because they're legal and ordinarily residents, met the 15-year threshold and they were naturalized, they could still switch over and make an application on the grounds of naturalization. And that's the British Nationality Act. So there are a lot of things going on there that will hinge on legal and ordinarily residents and someone having naturalization. You understand? So pushing the eligibility to apply for Caymanian status at 15 years of marriage, your legal and ordinarily resident status is still counting, because the 15-year threshold under the British Nationality Act remains. Remember, you don't amend that locally. That's amended in the United Kingdom. You follow me? So once you're naturalized and you keep here up to 15 years, you're eligible to apply for Caymanian status through that door.
Anyway.
Anyway, which is what Mr. Balika was saying to a degree when we were speaking on the grounds of marriage. So, and he brought up another thing. I know we're going into to those who feel that they're been played, and this goes for both genders. I think I heard a number of persons comment this morning that the main reason some of the females feel so bad is because they're fearful. Let me tell you something. That statement was profound. So you're basically being held hostage in your own country with someone through immigration, but you're fearful of your life. My love, that in itself sent chills up my spine. You can't defend your own citizenship because your partner, who you're married to, pretty much scares the bejeebers out of you. And it's like you have nowhere to turn. That shows something bigger than immigration reform that we have at hand.
I agree. But where does that come from?
imported cultures, bad decisions. But you don't know. Not everybody knows. Not everybody shows their own hand. I could fall in love with you and you don't show me who you are until you get every paper. And then you
True.
change on me overnight.
True. And I remember a
It's an
story.
act. It's an act. And I feel that is the position that a lot of Caymanian, since we're protecting Caymanian citizenship and the path to solidifying that for our expatriate partners, that's the part that is bringing out the anger in our Caymanians who feel that they are just a meal ticket. Remember, we had a caller yesterday that alluded to a sandwich and they can get what they want. Maybe that's the same way it's looking at for Caymanian status through some of our Caymanians. It's that simple. You just offer them a 500. You take them out. You understand? You see where I'm going with that?
Yeah. You maintain the image.
Yeah.
But I mean, in my like hearing stories and stuff, especially with our following on from the conversation today in the morning show, I do believe that a lot of Caymanian women suffer from low self-esteem. And they are willing to put up with foolishness just to say that they have somebody who loves them. And I mean, too, and I don't say that lightly or flippantly to put it on, the Caymanian women, because women typically the world over are judged by their relationship status. Right? I mean, if a woman is single past a certain age, well, either she can't keep a man or she can't get a man or she's lesbian.
Yeah.
Right? And then, with just how a lot of our people go through trauma growing up, and a lot of them, they suffer from low self-esteem, and when they find somebody, a man who is willing to give them attention, even if it's bad attention, it's still attention of a kind, and they're willing to put up. What I really want to say to you, I don't know if I can say it on air because I don't know who's listening, but there was a comment that I passed earlier on the show, on the early show on Facebook, talking about being hypnotized by a certain body part. I mean, there's some. I know. I personally know people who the man beating them. You offer help, they turn it down. Oh, it's not that bad. Or I really shouldn't have said that to him. That's what caused him. That's what got him angry. And when you hear, and then through more conversation and other days, it because he can throw it down on, I'm good in bed.
And they decide to put up with the abuse because they can only think because of the satisfaction that they get in their personal time. Well, that's pretty sad.
So, I mean, what like nobody else giving me attention. So at least I got somebody who's attentive to me.
But
a lot of our people suffer with that.
The low self-esteem part, that plays a part. I agree. But do you feel then that some actually fall, and this goes for both genders, for all the sweet words? Because there's one thing when you're when you're going through that dating phase, and let me tell you something, I swear some of the men, I can only speak from a woman, have the sweetest words to say to you. Some cultures got it down pat, that they will sweep you off of your feet to the point where you actually think you're going crazy or that you are too, I wouldn't say use too good, but they don't stop. And it's like they size you up. They tell you all what they want. You become gullible. You spill your honest truth, thinking they are being the same, but it is coded in their genetics that they'll always be players. And you get played. And you live stuck with OMG. How come I didn't see it? While, as I noticed, some of the comments came in, every member of their family end up being here on you. You still bearing all of the financial expenses as they embold themselves. And then people are saying, well, just because you're Cayman Islands, I got my papers through, you're not gonna control me. Because if it wasn't for me, this, that. But where did this character come from when during the dating phase, they struck every right chord that would make you melt like butter on popcorn?
But I think that's where it goes back to a mixture of low self-esteem and not being savvy to the games that players play. I mean, look, you have to be guarded, especially in this day and age where anybody can say anything. And do you know what a trauma bond is?
A trauma bond? No,
A trauma
explain
bond.
it to me.
All right. So a trauma bond is when somebody feels deeply attached to a person who hurts them in some form or fashion, right? It's when the person who causes the pain is also the person who gives the comfort, right? And the emotional roller coaster creates a powerful attachment. So let me explain how it is. All of us have nervous systems, right? We have brains, we feel pleasure, we feel pain. We tend to move towards things that give us pleasure, and we tend to move away from things that give us pain, right? So what happens is it's a cycle of pain and relief, and then pain and relief. And then what happens is that you start programming your brain, linking the relief to the love, right? Not any attraction, it's the relief, right? So how it usually starts off, it starts off very intense in the beginning. You get lots of attention, you get lots of affection, you get the big promises, you get the big emotions. I mean, they call you constantly, well, you're different. There's, I've met a lot of women, but there's something about you, Sabrina, that just I can't take my mind off of you. And
Yes.
and like I'm crazy. I have to have you. And and he says he's never felt this way before. And you feel powerful. You feel special, especially if you're somebody who is coming from a background where you feel like nobody wants you or nobody likes you, or
Or
you come
you,
from that
yeah.
low self-esteem. Here is somebody who's giving you all that attention. But what I want people to pay attention to is that it comes suddenly. It comes all quickly, all up front, very intense in the beginning. And you have to learn to distrust your own wanting to feel that. And you have to be a bit more guarded. Right? So then now, so what happens now is that you fall for the person, you get together with the person now, right? Then something in the relationship shifts. The criticism comes out. You see the little flashes of jealousy. I mean, we all get jealous. Arguments happen, you get the silent treatment, then the anger. So, for example, say you're with somebody, all of a sudden, well, he sort of accuses you of flirting with other people, right? He accuses you of flirting. Then because of that, now he withdraws his affection. So that sweet put down that he put down on you in the bedroom, now, all of a sudden, now you're not getting that no more. All right? And he starts to make you feel like you did something wrong, right? Now, you're going crazy because you're saying to yourself, well, what did I do? I don't understand where this is coming from. Then all of a sudden now the kindness starts again. This is where the relief now comes in, and this is where people confuse that with the love. So all of a sudden now, baby, I'm so sorry. I really shouldn't have. It's just that I love you so much. I can't stand the fact that you would talk to somebody else, and I can't stand to see him with you. He can't love you like how I do, and I can't lose you. Let's start over, and you begin to feel that relief. So what happens is your nervous system relaxes, right? And now your brain connects that relief to him, to the partner, right? So your body goes through the stress during the bad moments, your stress hormones spike, then the person is nice again, your brain releases the feel-good chemicals, right? And the contrast makes the good moments feel intense and addictive. It is like gambling. Right? It's like when you go and you know, most times you're gonna lose, but that one time, all right, you know what, just one more roll and I'm gonna give up. You roll, right? You get a jackpot. Now all of a sudden you want to go back for it again, even though you know that the chances are you're gonna lose more times than you win. That's how trauma bonding. That's a trauma bond.
So this could be done by both genders, because I see where Jim is saying women can be players as well. Men more so, yes, but the players play in both sexes. And we're identifying that. But what we're seeing now, linking it back to the great immigration reform, is that for those who enter these relationships for alternate reasons, is it fair then that we should be actually, or the board should be tasked with being the referees for those marriages, especially if you realize that they were entered into in the first place for alternate reasons based on feedback that people are giving?
Yeah, but who's the people giving the feedback? Who are the people that are giving the feedback?
Complaints are registered, and of course, it's up to the enforcement officers to go and investigate. Sometimes these can come directly from immediate family, friends, or persons who are concerned, and sometimes based on abuse in households, many a times in combination with reports being made. But there are cases where females actually just capitulate. They stay in the home because our share size and society. And they're actually being exploited by these bad characters, therefore holding the losing end of the stick, because it's like all odds are stacked against them. And a lot of them are crying out for help, but they're crying out not being heard because of the very sheer size of our society. And in many cases, some of them fear their lives.
I hear what you're saying, and my heart goes out to them. But I mean, I'm just a lay person, right?
We're just having the and ladies and gentlemen, the phone lines are open, 936-8255, or you can also call in on WhatsApp as well. My guest is in the virtual studio, and so therefore, don't think it's a call. It's the phone lines are open if you want to join in this conversation this evening. And I welcome all of you. Thank you all for your feedback thus far. And of course, the platform is ours to discuss where we're going here, because immigration is important, but also we're realizing that in our personal homes right now, there's something bigger that's at stake. What allegations are being made is that I feel that the civil service needs to possibly look into the sale thereof based on the allegations, the sale of permanent residence, the sale of residence and employment rights certificate. And they say all you got to have is the right connections. So that is the broad part of the discussion this evening. And if you have any advice and you want to share with us in this platform, be it a man, be it a woman, we're not biased by any genders here this evening. And I'm so happy for my guests joining me. Feel free to call in. But going back, guests, in regards to everything that is there, even the anchor babies, those who choose to have a child, don't play a part in the child's life and are allowed to stay and remain and use the child as a meal ticket. And then we have legislation that once certain things can be proven of you being a part of the child's life, you're allowed to reside and remain and work until that child is up to 18 years of age. And if the child decides to be a full-time student, until age 21 or whichever happens earlier. Sometimes the parent is begging for help and can't get that financial help for their child unless they decide to go to bed with them. Who's stuck in the middle? The poor child. but who gets the better share of the stick? And I feel this is what I'm getting out of the conversations and the feedback that I'm getting, is that even though some marriages to foreign nationals, they always end up getting the better half because their aim is to get the Cayman passport, is to get the status and the UK passport, because many of them, their passport couldn't take them beyond their own jurisdiction, but here. And because our immigration laws and pathways to getting an easy travel document makes us a very attractive jurisdiction. That's almost a slap in the people's face, would you not say?
But I have to ask the question. I mean, is this really about? I mean, is it really about incentive design? Because I mean, public policy always creates incentives, and it doesn't matter what the policy is about, right? I mean, and if marriage is the most accessible or the fastest route to status, I mean, it'll naturally become attractive to individuals seeking stability here in the country. I mean, I think the responsibility of policymakers is to design a system that, number one, set objective criteria, as I mentioned earlier, and to include the safeguards against misuse. Now, what those safeguards look like, I don't know, because how
But
do you put?
raising the fees? You think raising the fees on status on the grounds of marriage would actually do anything with deterring you giving somebody 15 years to find $2,000?
If the incentive to get it is greater than the cost, people are going to do it.
Exactly.
I mean,
exactly.
What might be expensive for you might not be expensive for me, given
that could be a drop.
What are my
for
ultimate
the longer plans? Yeah.
Right. I mean, there's some people who they want to come to Cayman because they want to live in Cayman, and Cayman. And I mean, all people everywhere. I mean, they look into better their standard of living, right? That's why people move countries all over the world, right? But some people who they come to Cayman and they want to stay in Cayman because they like in Cayman. No, I'm not saying whether or not they actually want to integrate with us. I'm just talking about they're getting the benefits here. And then there's some people say, look, like if I get naturalized in the Cayman Islands, that means that I can get naturalized in Britain, which is where I really want to go, right? So yes, they've put higher fees in place, and they've extended the timeline. But I really want to go to England, and then from England I can go elsewhere. And if that's the goal, and that is a strong enough goal for them, I mean, they're gonna deal with whatever they have to deal with to get there. In my view.
Yep. Let's look at what Jim has said, and then you can weigh in on that. Those persons who have the money, changes to immigration won't matter to the class of people. They will pay whatever it takes, have the language with who they need to and get what they want. So really, who are these policy changes really directed for? And Damian Henry says, some people are genuine, but others are wolf in sheep's clothing and comes with bad intentions. And what Connie is saying here is that that's cutting off your nose to spite your face, Auntie. What about the genuine ones, you see?
Well,
so it's a delicate dance.
Well, that's my thing. Like that was going to be my next question. Like, what protects the genuine couples from being unfairly scrutinized? Right.
That's the magic question.
And that's where I say, like, we need clear published criteria. I mean, you can't have. Well, let me not say you can't have. I mean, government has a legitimate obligation to protect the integrity of the immigration pathways, right? And marriage provides access to status. So there has to be some oversight, but interference begins when enforcement moves beyond verifying legal criteria and into judging the authenticity of emotional dynamics. I mean, I don't like to hear. I mean, I heard the comments. I heard the women that were crying out. The people that were crying out on this morning show. They were talking about women putting up with the abuse. They getting beaten to a pulp by the men. I don't like hearing that. I mean, that boils my blood to know that somebody from outside can beat my people, my women, I say my women, I want to be clear. I'm talking about
Yeah,
women,
yeah, yeah.
right?
Yes.
Beating my people, because I mean, you know, but is it government's place to go into the subjective and to say, well, I don't know. I struggle with that. I mean, marriage has always had multiple dimensions, Auntie Sabrina, right? There's an emotional side to marriage. There's economic side. There's a social side. There are practical sides. I mean, immigration-related marriages are not unique in that respect. Right? I mean, the law doesn't require romance. It just requires intent consistent
Wow.
with the legal
I don't think
framework,
you realize what you just said. The
right?
law does not require romance.
Right? A marriage entered into with genuine intent to build a life together, I mean, even if it also brings immigration benefit, is not inherently improper. The legal concern arises only when the primary purpose is to circumvent immigration controls without a genuine shared life.
Yeah.
So the distinction, in my view, lies in the evidence, not necessarily the sentiment. And I mean, just because you have a situation where you have a couple that are married and they're emotionally distant, or maybe one is abusive toward the other. I mean, how can you say that that's not a genuine marriage outside of these objective criteria?
Do you think the quality of persons, how I could put this now, that are here in the pool, saved by we're keeping it Caymanian now, we're keeping it local. When you see some of them and how they choose their partners, do you think the quality of substance is there? Why we're ending up with so much disasters in the marriages? Do you think that some really fall for some that you could see them a mile away that they were a player, that they have a hidden agenda, and what's in them based on their culture, their background, that it was inevitable? It's only a matter of time. Do you feel that pretty much you're settling for the wrong one?
You just said the word. You just said the
Settling.
word settling. I mean, in my view, it depends on what it is. What it is that you're settling on. I mean, what one person calls low quality, another person may call, oh, well, you know, all right. Okay. I don't want real talk. I'll give you real talk, right? You talk to a woman, you say to the woman, oh, you know, he's a nice man over there, you know, yeah, he might be a little overweight, and you know, but he's really good, and he takes care of you, and he takes care of his own, and this and that and thing. You know, he might have a little trouble in the past. The two of them should get to know each other. Y'all should go out. None of the one that the women chase. Girl, you better be careful of him. You know, he a dog. He dangerous. He over there, and He already got about 50, women and 50, children for 50, women and stuff like that. And those are the ones that some of the women throw themselves on. So I mean, when you talk about quality, I'm just giving one perspective. I mean, I'd invite other people to give their perspectives, right?
Yes.
When calling somebody saying about the pool, I mean, when you look at the dating pool and you think, how are these people choosing these partners? What you're really observing are the patterns. You're not really looking at objective rankings, because who's to say who's high quality from who is low quality?
Do you feel that certain circles that they hang out yield certain personalities that they're just certain areas that you would not go? They're just certain places I wouldn't go because of the stigma that comes with certain venues and locations. And it's almost like a disaster. And it aligns with possibly, this is not stereotyping by any means, but that usually is an idea of what you could be getting into permanently based on where you go, how low, how high. Understanding abuse, manipulation can come in all forms, from the highest executives to the lowest man. So this is why I had to make sure that you understood what I was saying. But the chances are greater when you take, how can I put it now? And this goes for both genders. This says, I used to hear my grandmother say this, you can take the pig out of the mud, but you can't take the mud out of the pig.
I mean, Cayman is such a small society. I mean, we have pretty unique dynamics. I mean, the pool is smaller. Reputation travels fast. Social circles overlap. Economic and immigration realities shape relationships. So the choices are influenced by convenience, status benefits, financial stability, community pressure, limited options. I mean, it all depends on what it is you want. Like you said, what is it you're willing to settle for? Right? I mean, single life not really that bad, you know.
Peace of mind.
Peace of mind not that bad. Listen, you cannot put a price on peace of mind. Relationships are not for everybody.
But I have a friend who says we're not designed to being in this world alone, but we're looking at that right now with all of the disaster stories that we're hearing. My heart went out when I heard those callers this morning. I'm being very honest with you. For the conditions that some of us are living under. Of course, there's some men that are going through the same thing. But I'm finding that more women are more susceptible to calling in and speaking out on what they're actually experiencing than men, because again of how men are perceived. So it is both genders. But we have a caller. Good evening, caller. Welcome, you're live.
Hello, good evening, Sabrina.
Hi. Welcome.
Good evening, Alfred.
Hi, Auntie Sandy. How are you doing?
I'm good. It's definitely a very interesting conversation. I was just tuning in. And I think the one thing we can all agree on is that relationships are complex. I mean, that's why when Alfred said you're better off sometimes, there's nothing wrong with being alone, I had to chuckle because that is certainly the simpler option. And, you know, even the research and the data shows that single people are actually happier than married people and people in relationships. Isn't that crazy?
Yes. Yeah, it's true.
We have built this, and I think it's part of it is to procreate and to ensure that the human race continues. We've kind of built this concept of relationships and bonds and all this sort of thing. And even the idea that you could have one partner for your entire life, which, you know, nature, there's various animals that do that, right? That have that level of commitment. There are some, to be clear, but they're not, that's not the norm, if you will, for the majority. So I think that we are out here trying to like discover what makes us happy, what keeps people together, why are people drawn to each other. And I think in the context of Cayman and immigration, you have to be realistic. I've known quite a few couples actually who they were in a relationship, they were dating, and you know, everything was good, whatever. But the decision to marry came quicker in the relationship because one person's immigration status was going to be impacted if they didn't make that decision at that time. And that included sometimes even expats, you know, like, okay, one's about to get rolled over and the other one is still here, but because they're not married or they don't have, I guess, any kind of registered partnership, they would have to leave. So then they said, well, we're eventually going in that direction anyway. So let's go ahead and just pull the trigger and get it done. Sometimes the parties involved, one being a Caymanian, and of course that always tends to raise eyebrows a little bit, like, why are you marrying this person so quickly?
Or at the end of your term limit, why, if you were dating for 4 years, why didn't you do it before?
Exactly.
And now you're 6 months before your rollover. Now all I'm getting is a marriage certificate. This is a marriage of convenience. It's
and
automatic.
The funny thing is, even if you're not in that situation, you think about it because you think about what will other people, so I'll tell you a story with myself. Someone, you know, of course I'm in a public space, so people always feel like they have something to say. right? And somebody was saying, oh, she just married this guy because he was about to get rolled over. I had to go double check. Of course, I didn't know anything about no rollover. So for my own benefit, I went and double checked to see when was it that he was actually due to leave, and he wasn't anywhere near his time limit. Like that. I just went and double checked because the next time somebody comes to me and dares to say something like that, I will definitely be able to say to them, hold on. Actually, he had another 4 years or whatever it was. So that could not have played a role in this situation. But isn't it sad that if you are in a relationship or you marry a foreign national, you almost feel like somehow you have to justify or explain that potentially.
You have to prove.
To the public.
Yes. Yes.
And that's really nobody's business.
Small island development states, again, one of the disadvantage.
Yeah. And so it's like pretty wild. It's pretty crazy that this is where we have come to. And I'm not saying that that's necessarily unique to Cayman because, like I said, sometimes I sit down and I watch these 90-day Beyonce people. And it's interesting that every single one of them, people are like, oh yeah, this person is basically trying to use you. And you have to try to look at it as objectively as possible. But the bigger question is, are all relationships not a form, and I wouldn't say marriage of convenience, but are all relationships not mutually beneficial, or at least beneficial to one of the parties? Why else would you be entering a relationship?
Exactly. I mean, I was reading this book.
Yeah.
Like for me, at my age, I was like, okay, been there, done that. To be quite frank, if I didn't want to start a family, I'm not so sure that I would have gotten married again. Because I'm happy to just be like, okay, in a long-term committed relationship.
Do you think
There's nothing wrong.
society looks at you, especially if you get a certain age, if you're in a certain position, that it's almost like, well, something, she must be funny if she not with nobody, or she can't keep a man, he can't keep a woman. And it's almost like your family, like, well, you're not gonna find somebody else, or you're not gonna get married when you gonna get married.
A lot of there's a good friend of mine, she gonna laugh when she see this, but she always posts stuff on her social media page where she's like, listen, she doesn't have any kids. She's not married. Well, she might have more recently got married, but anyway, other situation. But, for the longest time she wasn't. And she was like, why do people keep trying to pressure her? That's not for her. It's not for everyone. But yeah, people do kind of look at you suspicious as though there is something wrong with you. And, I think people just need to ease up on people. Everybody has choices to make in life. Not every woman wants to get married. Not everybody wants that supposed fairy tale princess thing. And, a lot of women also don't even want to have children anymore. They don't want the headache. They're happy with nieces and nephews or not at all. I mean, some people don't even like kids, So I think we need to give room in the conversation and in our communities for people to just be authentically who they are themselves. Right? And unfortunately, we don't do enough of that. There is definitely, especially when it comes to women, men have a little bit more freedom. But when it comes to women, the expectations are really, really heavy. When are you going to get married? When are you going to have kids? When are you going to do that? And it's just like, just ease up on people, because sometimes that pressure forces people to be in situations that ordinarily they wouldn't even be in.
And worse.
And then that is where it's like detrimental. It's abusive.
Because they take out the resentment on the person that they're with.
Yeah. And it's worse if, God forbid, if you're on your second or third marriage, automatically people are thinking something's wrong with you. What's wrong with him? What's wrong with her? Can't keep a man. When you may find out later on in a relationship that you're just not compatible.
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, I think when you have the time to get to know someone, but then people also change. So, one of the callers this morning was saying how she was with this guy for like 3 or 4 years before they got married. And then within 6 months of them getting married, her opinion is he changed.
Complacency setting.
And so I'm like, some people just waiting for that once, because they feel like, okay, they've got you.
I lock you down.
Yeah, they put a ring on it. They got you. Now what you gonna do?
Mm-hmm.
And you know that the one thing about a marriage is it's easier to get in than get out of it.
Yep.
That much I know.
Cheaper to keep her. What? Cheaper to keep her.
Cheaper to
Or-
keep her. Cheaper to keep her.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah. So
But Auntie Sandy, I have to ask you,
Mhm.
right? Because one thing Auntie Sabrina thought, she talked about the dating pool. I want your thoughts on it, right? Because as I'm listening to both of you speak, and I'm going back to a comment I made on the early show today, right? When people say the dating pool is terrible, do you think it would be appropriate to ask, what patterns am I contributing to, and what am I attracted to, and what red flags do I ignore, and what boundaries do I struggle to enforce?
I mean, I think everybody has that struggle, right?
I'll tell you what.
Everyone has the struggle of, because I kind of feel like most of us are accepting of things that we probably shouldn't be, because we've seen these dysfunctional relationships and come to accept them at some level.
Mm-hmm.
And God knows every woman, I think, has been in that situation where you were really into a guy, you're really in love with him, and therefore you compromised. You never thought you'd compromise your principles, your positions in the way that you did. So perhaps there were things that you put up with once you've got a baby with someone or whatever that ordinarily you would not have put up with.
Mm-hmm.
You know how many women would say, I would never in a million years let a man hit me. And then you get in a relationship with that type of person, with that abuser. And because you have a child with them, you go, oh my God, I can't leave, or maybe your finances are not where they need to be. Now you feel like you're trapped.
Or
So
because the makeup sex is better after.
Well,
no, let's
I
not.
mean,
some people stay for that.
yeah,
I can tell
some
you
people
stories.
it might be that low for some people, but I think that everyone has probably at least had one relationship where they just put up with way more than they should have.
Let me clarify, right? Because I commented this morning, and okay, and again, I'm not condoning abuse. I'm not condoning bad behavior or anything or thing. I'm just saying how I see it, right? A lot of the women commented this morning, and some of them called in and they were talking about, how some of the men are very, the man should stay committed and the man should say this, and, the man, and all of that may be true, right? But then if you go out on Batabanu, Cayman, certain songs blaring at top volume,
Oy.
Oh yeah, the man is the gallus, and he got all these girls and this and that and the feather he kept, and the women are the one that winding up and dancing to those same songs. Do you think that sends sort of even if it's a subliminal message, do you think that sends some sort of message into the men that, well, they seem to be okay with this? Like, is there an inconsistency in what a lot of people say versus what they do and what they show?
We had this discussion during Carnival because we were looking at some of the outfits that some of the women were choosing to wear. And this became a question of, they're in professional positions, and what kind of message does that even send? I remember one young lady that I'm really, really fond of is like, don't judge us based on how we look and what we have on and what we wear. And so I think that we, as kind of like the older aunties, have a responsibility. I remember doing a little short message on this, right? We have a responsibility to give people this reality check, especially women, because we are judged by a very, very different standard completely. And so when you're out here thinking that, oh, you can be just as free as the man in the streets, so you can choose to wind up on him and not necessarily him winding up on you, and that's going to be okay, and people are not going to judge you based on that, you are highly misguided. People will judge you in your community, in your families, and even from a professional perspective, right? Yeah, and that's not going to bode well for you. Yes, people, I'm sure, have lost out on job opportunities and maybe didn't get that promotion because they appeared to dress a particular way or to have a particular reputation. And sometimes the companies will even step up. I know there's a young lady who worked at Maples, and she was a Caymanian attorney, and they had to step up and kind of pull her aside and said, "Listen, the way that you dress and come to work, we feel like you're going to a nightclub, and it's like full makeup, full this, all the like 12-inch heels, all kind of stuff." They're like, no. That does not represent our corporate environment, our corporate culture. So when they're out there, to answer your question, Alfred, when they're out there winding up on the men, I do feel that sometimes there's a bit of pressure on them, especially in settings like that, where they're trying to prove like they can be just as fun as the guy, and they're there to have a good time and whatever. There is that kind of pressure, and I mean, some people blame it on feminism or whatever, but there does seem to be this degree of pressure that comes with this, and so women cave in, and they want to be the life of the party. They want to be the party girl who can hold her liquor just like the guys can. And the reality is there's always a price to pay for that for women. And so I think, as someone who I've never really been a drinker or party or anything like that. And again, I think that's in part because, my aunt just she was old fashioned. So she raised me completely different. There were some things that were so embedded in me that even when I was out on my own, I was like, yeah, I'm not doing that, But
you
I
think
do think
you think that's fair?
No,
that
but
women are actually held to a higher standard, because I love my wet fets. I love to dance, and yeah, everyone knows I'll have me an adult beverage or 4 or 5. And I have been, I used to tear up Office. I used to tear up Peppers. And like I said, I never missed a wet fet, but I was always with my partner or families. Now, does that make me a bad person? No.
No, I mean, I don't think any of it. Listen, I don't
makes you a bad
feel
person.
that any of it makes you a bad
Or
person.
look anyway, or should that interfere with any job opportunities for me? Or
I think the reality
less?
is it does. Even for the men, but the women get judged a little bit harsher. That's what I think.
Well, I
with your husband.
Well, I just wanted to give a male perspective on in terms of that, right? Because you have not all men. I mean, as I said on an earlier show, not all men are dogs and not all women are angels, right? But for the man, I'm talking about from a man's perspective, right? So you have a man who maybe he was raised with better values. There's a certain way you talk to a lady. You don't talk to ladies certain ways. This is how you conduct yourself. You don't roam around the neighborhood like some dog off his leash, right? You this is how you're supposed to conduct yourself around a woman, right? But then when he goes out and he sees that, okay, well, this is what women seem to glorify from what he sees, right? From the Batabanu and the festivals, and she winding up and she this and she that. And he's like, okay, well, I can't get a date. I can't get somebody to look my way. I can't get anybody to talk to me. I can't get anybody. It's like, okay, well, maybe I need to get more of an edge, or maybe I need to. But then he now thinking, all right, well, how close is the edge before I fall off, right? Because it seems, and I've heard these too. It seems like for a lot of these men is that they see the bad boys, and they see what bad boys can pull, and they see the attention that the bad boys can pull, right? The ones that leave broken hearts in their wake, right? They have. You talk about feather in their cap, they have about 50 feathers in their cap. He slept with, 50, 11, and then of course, the more he adds, the more he's seen that, yeah, boy, he's a boss, and he's the gallus, the bad man like that, and this and that. So when a good guy sees that, and he sees that, well, this is what the women seem to gravitate towards, does that not also, like that, that's where I was coming from with that question.
What a society we live in, but it doesn't make you any less than human, even if you're in a corporate position. And I feel a lot of people actually judge you, not realizing that you're human. understanding there's certain rules. Please, guys, don't misunderstand me. That you are held to a higher standard, but it doesn't mean you're less than human. If you're getting where I'm coming from with that.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel in the small society that we're in, it is even that much harder because everyone knows everybody. And it's almost as though based on the certain class and tiers that you're on, you won't get out there, you want to go down and you want to get dirty and you want to just be you. You want to enjoy life, but you can't because of societal pressures. Then you're faking. And you feel that that's probably why a lot of people suffer in silence in broken marriages, because even if they have to make complaints to a board, we know how much hands a particular letter has to go through in immigration, for example, before it gets to the board. And we don't know how people may feel. So it is a delicate dance when we look back at immigration, how we're judged, everything in regards to how even we conduct ourselves. Yes, women are held to higher standards, but it's almost like giving the men a free pass also to do these things and get away with it. I see where Jeremy had actually posted here. I've been stabbed, fingers broken, hit in the head with bottles with a Caymanian girl, baby mama. I've never hit her, held her down. This goes both ways. I've been here 23 years. 2 daughters from 2 Caymanian baby mamas. I can't leave my babies. You see?
Mm-hmm.
And I thank him for speaking out and being honest with that. So it really does goes both ways.
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting. Jim says, I believe you can have 2 women or 2 men doing the same thing, acting similarly, and the 2 women will be viewed differently, as will the men based on who they are, their looks, and how they're dressed. That's factual.
There's a biological reason for that, though, you know.
Tell us.
You really want to turn this into a science lesson? All right. But basically, I mean, when we talk about culture, right? Culture is a large part of culture is based on biology, our biology, right? And I don't want to lose anyone here, but I'll try to be as succinct as I can. If you ever turn on Animal Planet or you ever turn on Discovery Channel, you'll notice that that it's always the male that's always competing for the attention and for the right to mate for the female, right? It's very rarely the other way around. And the reason for that has to do with our biology as males, right? Because males produce sperm, from the time a time a boy hits puberty, he will produce sperm until the day he dies, right? I think it is a 500 billion, I think is what is sperm cells in his lifetime.
In a lifetime.
So then for women, by the time they're born, they're already born with all the eggs they'll ever have. And then what happens is that not all of those eggs are going to reach maturity. So what happens is sperm is already very cheap for men because men can produce it. Women now, they're locked into how many they have. And then when men and women procreate, a woman now she's the one that has to put up with all the burdens of pregnancy, right? Well, she can't turn over here. She can't turn over there. You know, the acid reflux, you know, the morning sickness. And, you know, especially back in the olden days when women died of childbirth, died in childbirth, right? So women looked at that. Over time, women looked at that and they said, well, if I'm going to have to go through all of this just to have a baby, I'm not going to have this with any and every man. So I'm going to be, it's in my best interest as a woman to be highly selective about the man I choose. So if I'm going to go through all of this for a man, he better be someone of means that can take care of me and take care of my children, right? And because it's relatively cheap for men, his biological drive is to spread his seed as far and wide as he can. If you look on Animal Planet, you look at Discovery Channel, it's no different with us. It is no different with us, but it's just that culture now,
Mhm.
culture over time has built around to protect that, to protect women, right? Um, and I'm not saying that we go back to the days of, when women were policed and women had to wear chastity belts and that kind of thing back in the day. But I mean, there was a reason why culture was so protective about access to women.
Mhm.
And women were expected to conduct themselves a certain way, and women were expected to. I mean, when you think of some of the names that a woman is called, let's say that she only has two boyfriends in her life, or she slept
Yeah.
with two people in her life, and the names that she's called, I won't repeat them here,
Mhm. Mhm.
right? Like it wasn't. Those names didn't come from men. Those names came from other women,
Mhm.
right? Because it was a way of socially, like going back to what Auntie Sandy was saying, talking about the older women, being mentors to the young girls and that kind of thing.
Mhm.
It was a way of keeping those systems in place so that the women don't just, because a man and a woman is like Jim said, he's absolutely right. A man having more than one woman and a woman having more than one man are two different things.
Mhm. Where do you think society is going to go, or relationships are going to go in the future at this rate? Obviously realizing that there's very little trust. It looks as though everybody's a player with the impact now of social media, all of these different apps and connectivity from around the world. Where do you feel relationships are going from a male's perspective? And I'd like to get Sandy's opinion on that as well. Understanding she's from the old school, I'm from a different generation, you're from a different generation. Where do you feel relationships are headed at this rate?
In terms of,
Commitment. Right now, we're doing this virtually, we're streaming all over the world, and people are falling in love with even people that they don't even know just based on words that are exchanged. Where do you feel that relationships are going with loyalty, trust, dedication, all of that? Do you feel that we're going to ever get back to where it used to be for the true principles and fundamentals of becoming one? Or
well,
that?
in my opinion, I think what's happening I think our notion of relationships are broadening. I mean, more and more people are going into this whole polyamorous kind of situations. They're sort of accepting the whole, like this whole side piece culture and the side chick association kind of thing, and people are increasingly becoming more and more fine with it.
Mhm.
In terms of where it goes, I don't know. I mean, I'm hearing now of people for having AI boyfriends and AI girlfriends.
Mhm.
So because it seems like that's the only person who can, or well, person, I use that loosely, who they can relate to.
Right. Sandra, what's your take on relationships for the future? I mean, you have a young daughter coming up. I have young sons as well, adults, but still young enough. What's your take on that? She gone? She gone? Oh, she gone.
Should leave us?
I thought she was still
She
there.
left us. Why she leave
Yeah,
us
she
for?
just dropped right off. But it's interesting where, and I thank her for calling in as well. The phone lines are open, guys, if you want to weigh in on this, 936-8255, to call in on this as we look in holding each other accountable, calling it out for what it is, when it is true love. Many of us feel like we're being played. And this goes to both genders. And that's what I want to thank Jeremy for actually giving his spin as a male on it. And we're seeing where persons are actually saying, Denver says, one only have one unconditional love for mother, father, son, daughter. Love is really caring, respecting, and supporting each other.
Mhm.
And it's true, but I think that is boiling down to exactly where we're headed, that we're seeing where respect is actually so eroded that it's almost transactional anyhow. You heard what Sandra said earlier on, and I hope I got her right, is that you date for a while And then complacency sets in, and within 3 to 6 months, who the individual was before the union becomes somebody else. You said, oh, you're locked down. You take it for granted. There's no maintenance. And then that whole spark just dies, which is why people are more hesitant nowadays to actually commit because of the lax, because of the complacency. And then everything falls away. That's sad.
Well, I want to big up Jeremy. I don't know if you
Yes.
can put his comment back on the
Sure, I
screen, but
will.
I really
There we
want to
go.
big up Jeremy because so many men go through domestic abuse and they're either told not to talk about it or they feel like they're going to be judged for allowing a woman because he's expected to be bigger and stronger and put her in her place and that kind of thing, right? I really want to give him his props for being brave enough to share his story with all of us, because there are a lot of men who go through situations like that and they don't talk.
They don't.
For fear of judgment. Right? So Jeremy, hang in there.
And we have here where Andrew is saying dating is a period of testing, careful assessment of discovering true identity of the individual's compatibility. Before you are confirmed for most employment jobs, you go through a probation period of 3 to 6 months. During that period, you are assessed. Andrew, Christ. Sometimes in this case, some of these relationships you go through 10 years and you still don't know them. And that is, it should be. But what we're seeing, Andrew, is that what people are saying, it's like after the I do, it's a different character that comes out. It's a different personality. So that is where the anger is born from, because people are saying they're being used because there is a hidden agenda from one of the partners. And that is where, and some are actually abusive. Jim, my friend here, he shared his story with us. Jeremy shared his story with us. But there are also a lot of females as well that is going through this. And guest, we mentioned a group of persons too that are taken advantage of. And that is those more mature females and males who are definitely hunted because they've more than likely made life. They're about to retire. They may have a house or businesses, and they're then even more vulnerable because, again, age is coming on them, and that makes them perfect targets. And there are a number of women who have fallen prey to some of these unscrupulous men, and they don't know how to exit the relationship. And they see their entire life, their retirement, that is now going through their fingers because they have committed to someone who had an ulterior motive.
But I have to ask, right? I mean, because you know me, I always gotta be the devil's advocate, right?
Yes.
I mean, in going back to Andrew's comment about the dating phase, right? Before you said I do you not? I mean, do you not? Is it that you? I have difficulty believing, Auntie Sabrina, that somebody can date you with ulterior motives and you don't see some form of red flag. I mean, let's say that you've been dating for 2 years, 3 years, right? And I'm really not into you, but I'll just play along because I hope to get something off of you. They're gonna be red flag. They're gonna be slips in the mask. The mask is gonna slide off even a little bit, right? I think going back to your question about where relationships are heading. I mean, I believe it comes down to understanding yourself And people who understand themselves are going to build those stable partnerships, and then the people who don't are just going to keep repeating cycles in new formats, right? So when you talk about these older people, let's say nearing
More
retirement,
mature then. Mm-hmm.
more mature, right? And you're a man, you made it into your 60s, and then you see one little, I don't know, 20-odd-year-old from a certain country, I'm not gonna call it no country, and all of a sudden now, like you that fool. Let me tell you one story. I gotta tell you one story. When
I wouldn't call it fool. I would say gullible.
Well, I don't know what it is, but I mean, okay. I remember I was going to a particular bar, and I'm gonna call the name. And this was quite a few years ago. And as I was leaving, there was this man coming up, had on his little fedora hat, walking with cane, so he looked like he must have been in his 60s or 70s. And he sat down by the bar, and then the barmaids came up to him and rubbing him down. Oh, Papi, you so sexy. Oh, yes, Papi, you so this, you so that, da 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 da. And he did grinning from ear to ear, and I'm thinking to myself, Jesus Lord, come see now we're gonna come at this,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, I mean, what? I'm not saying that you can't have age differences, but like, what are you doing with somebody 40 years? You're like, what are you gonna talk about? 40, 30 years, you're junior.
Yeah. That's a wide gap. And I've seen some statistics where it says marriages and unions normally don't last if the age gap is more than 10 years, I think was what I saw.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And that the older the relationship goes, and you would see that age into that person, the elder one becoming more. And some actual persons, some men and women prefer older persons. Who are we to draw the line to say whether it should be 10 years difference, 12 years difference, 25 years? And some of them, you can see them a mile away, where it is opportunistic and they're taking advantage of these people. But genuinely, some guys do fall for older women, and some women do fall for older men. But what you're highlighting is the obvious, where certain cultures definitely come, and they come with an agenda. And yes, it kind of makes you wonder what's going on in their headspace, that you're just being used.
I mean, I don't know.
A blind man can see it. Children on the Far East Coast of China without Wi-Fi can call some of these.
The blind children in China, put it all together.
Yeah, but that even worse. You see what I'm saying?
Children can see it.
Exactly. So you kind of ask, why? How do they get there? And these persons, you will see it being in an immigration capacity. And the law pretty much doesn't allow you to say something is wrong, and they will come there and they will defend it. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
Andrew made a well point here. Look at Cher. She's 77 years old, and her boyfriend is 37.
But what's the operative word in what Andrew said?
Boyfriend.
Boyfriend. I got no legal status. And I'm sure if Cher were to marry said boyfriend, a whole slew of prenups gonna be in place, because
But maybe she didn't get married for the very same reason, the obvious.
So,
maybe she hasn't gotten married because of the very same reason, the 77 versus the 37.
I think, well, I mean, at that, I mean, in my view, I mean, in any relationship, right, there has to be, relationships are the medium of exchange for value, right? As Sandra said earlier, like, why am I going to get with you if I have nothing to gain out of this? And now that can be material. It could be, you know, somebody who loves me. It could be companionship. It could be, you know, great sex. It could be any number of things that you're getting out of the relationship. But everybody gets something out of a relationship. So if it's a case where, you know what, I'm 65 years old, and, you know, I get with somebody who is in her 20s or her 30s, you know, she's in the prime of her life, she's in the prime of her beauty. I just looking for some like companionship, and she's probably looking. I mean, you just have to accept it for what it is.
Yeah. Maybe both of them are helping each other in this way. I mean,
Both of them are
hello.
helping.
Exactly. She doesn't need
grow.
him for his money. And so, as Jim said, Andrew Campbell both have an agenda. They probably have an agreement. Good for them. They make it work. They make it work. And there are a lot of other persons as well in the celebrity world that there's a huge age difference. And on the surface, it looks fine. But you really, it honestly, you got to wonder, is there a hidden agenda, or how can it work? Can true love really exist with a 45, 50-year difference, 35-year difference? You know, can it really be real? Who are we? Or it's out of pity.
But I think, I mean, and you can put all the legislation and all the regulations in the world on it, but I think it's going to come down to whether we as a people value our citizenship enough to safeguard it, and not just give it willy-nilly to people. Take time dating somebody, and there's no pressure. Well, there shouldn't be any pressure to, you know, jump into marriage. I mean, as Sandra said earlier, and as you've said earlier, it's something. Marriage isn't easy. It's easy to jump into, but it's not easy to maintain. It's certainly harder to jump out of, right? So take your time, get to know the person, especially if they're not from here. I'm not saying that you can't, that you don't love them, or that your feelings are not genuine, but don't rush into it. Don't rush into it. I remember I had a schoolmate. Her mother married a man from a certain. I don't want to call any countries because I really don't want to single.
Yeah, we don't want to get in there.
I don't want to single out anybody.
Right.
Came from a certain country in the Caribbean. Had, you know, the husband was there and thing. The mother was sick. And then when the mother died, within the next week, he had the woman from the same country come in and take her. And because he's the husband, and there was no, and the woman died intestate, the administrative law, you know, he's the next person who gets it. So he got the house, brought the woman from where he came from to come and live there, and kicked the girl out. And kicked Michael out.
You see, that infuriates people.
You know,
because then it begs the question, I wonder if there was always a relationship going on.
Probably, but I mean, what I say that to say to the people who are listening, you know, this is a reality. Be mindful that this is a reality. There's always that possibility that this person coming from Timbuktu or coming from Mars or coming from wherever has an agenda. So take your time. There's no rush. And if you know, their time here is coming to term, you know, like they have to leave, otherwise, you know, you gotta get married, have to leave and thing. I mean, really sit down and weigh out whether you really want to be with this person. I mean, given that, you know, your citizenship is something that is sacred. Citizenship to this country is really sacred. I mean, because when you bring somebody in, I mean, yes, it's you and them, but it's you and them and the government and the society that's in this in which you bring them in. Because when you have children with them, right, the children are going to go out into the schools, and they're going to interact with your neighbors, and they're going to interact with people. So anyway,
I see. On WhatsApp, it was shared. Someone shared with me. The person said, "Slong, take time to know her." You know, and yeah, it's really interesting. But do you feel, not calling nationalities, that we are probably we're speaking from the Caymanian perspective now. We are so in a bubble that we don't see the red flags in other persons from other countries because we only see the good in people or want to see the good in people. It goes back to a statement that you made about being able to identify certain red flags if you're dating someone, let's say for 2, 3, 4 years, whatever the date and time is, that there's some red flags that could come up. But there are just certain cultures that we still are trying, even in day to day, without even falling for someone or trying to be in a relationship with someone, just how their work ethics are. We're confused because of how we are wired here as Caymanians. Do you feel that that is playing a negative part on us as well? Because if I'm coming from a country where I could do whatever it takes for me to not go back to that, because the Cayman Islands provides a lifestyle, an income I can send back for my family, I'm going to conform myself to make sure I can survive in this environment, if it means faking it till you make it with somebody. And that faking till you make it is what we Caymanians don't see, because we go in, we give it all from the get-go. Do you feel that is why so many of us Caymanians are feeling that we are then taken for advantage through the immigration system? And that's why there's so much hate and harboring in us, because we just get played. And this is all genders, because I've seen it happening from the men and the women.
So to understand, you're asking if we live in a bubble? Is that
If how we're thinking, not being able to identify, let's say, people from Europe, from other countries within the region, that they're, even though we're close, how we view relationships, what is a norm, let's say in BVI is not a norm here with just how we're wired. What's a norm in Jamaica may not necessarily be. I didn't want to go there, but you understand what I'm saying? What is accepted in Trinidad is not accepted by us, and we can't see it for what it is.
But I think that goes back to knowing yourself and knowing your culture and knowing your people. Because I mean, for example, let's say you have somebody who comes from a culture where men are expected to be dominant and the woman is expected to be silent and meek and mild and stay at home and that kind of thing. And that's just not our history as a people. Women have held the fort here when the men went out to sea. Right?
But for those countries who are coming here, remember, we have how much 1,000 work permit holders, meaning they're imported persons. We are here, never gone anywhere, maybe besides college or university, and we still come back home. Caymankind, we Caymanian. What is instilled in me and you, guest, is totally different from someone who was raised up, came here through an invited request of an approved work permit or a government contract from a different country, different cultures, different way of life, different way of survival, that we miss it because of who we are. It's almost hard to describe, because it almost feels as though when you hear the stories, you see some of the cases, it's as though we as Caymanians continue to get suckered by expatriate partners who we choose or whatever was selected that went bad.
But this is where, I mean, this is where I say that, you know, we as a people, we have to take responsibility too. I mean, because people can only sucker you for so long until you really are a sucker. Right? I mean, there's gonna be, because I can't think of any culture or anybody coming from any culture where if you're dating them, that if they're dating you for other reasons other than, or for no other reasons besides the fact that they love you and they want to, I mean, they might have, you know, it might be nice if I get to stay here and get status here and thing, but if there's no love, if there's no genuine attraction or love to you, it's gonna show. There's gonna be inconsistencies between what they say and what they do. They're gonna be certain tactics to get you a loan from your family and your friends. I mean, there's gonna be some form of financial manipulation. right? And especially if there's someone who comes on to you really fast in the beginning and don't really leave any room for you to think, right? That you're going to see these red flags: blame shifting, lack of accountability, controlling behavior disguised as tradition. Back where I come from, women are to be silent and, men are to be down. Well, to hell with that, but that's not how we are here. That's not a part of our culture. And I mean, you just have to, I don't know. I mean, I don't think.
Yeah, you caught a blind
Ooh.
spot right there, like I did. Yeah, it's
Ooh.
hard to really say it, but Andrew makes a very valid point here, and I'd like to get your
Andrew's on
opinion on
fire,
this.
man.
Andrew says, arrange marriages with certain cultures. I am not agreeable with, but I respect their custom and culture. In most cases, they stay committed due to respect. What's your take on that one?
I mean, I don't see anything wrong in what he said. I'd like you
But
to
if
give
they
Denver a
arrange marriages
home.
based on their culture, the mere fact that it is arranged because of a culture, do you think they stay together for the mere fact that that's their culture and then they grow to love each other? Because I've seen some clippings in
Well,
these cultures that the first time they're even seeing their partner for life is on the day of their wedding, their nuptials.
yeah, but that's because in those cultures, right? They marriage isn't just about, the happiness of two people. It's about the bonding of two families. So usually in those cultures, they put certain structures and certain support systems in place to ensure that the couple stays together, because this isn't just Sabrina and Alfred, this is the Turners and and us coming together as a family for whatever reason. Whereas in the West, we tend to marry for love, romance, individual freedoms, and
the fairy tale wedding.
And the fairy tale wedding, and we see what the divorce rate is like in Western countries versus those kind. I mean, no system is going to be perfect, but I mean, I've heard it said that love, while it may not be as may not be as exciting as passion in the woods or somebody that you have a crush on or that kind of thing, but I've heard that arranged marriages, love does grow, and it's a stronger love. It lasts longer.
Got an interesting suggestion here from a WhatsApp person saying I should ask the Ministers Association to come and talk about what God has to say about marriage. Very interesting. That's a good.
I must stay out the God shot. I must stay out the God.
Very well, very, very well, very well. Jim says, and also with some arranged marriages is bringing the two families' money together. And you know what, Jim? A lot of that, no man, a lot of that as well, Jim, is to keep a certain classism. And for, Jim, I think you're going someplace. If maybe some of us were adapting some of these behaviors, maybe some wouldn't choose some of the partners that they choose. Not to say that you're going to be dictating who you choose for your daughters or your sons, but maybe if we had certain standards, because if you look even here in Cayman, there's certain sectors and certain societies, certain sectors of our society, they don't marry into certain areas of Cayman. Alfred, do you agree or disagree?
Sorry, say that again. You kind of broke up there.
When you look at certain names in our Caymanian society, where they're coming from certain areas, they don't marry our own, or they marry within a certain tier of people within our society. It's obvious here.
Or they marry a certain color. Call it what it is. Call it for what it is.
Yeah, you have to look at it. So let me tell you something. If you think it's not here, you got another guest coming. And this is why I agree with Andrew. He says, even though he doesn't agree with the culture, but he respects the custom, because in most cases they seem to be committed. And then you're having Jim saying arranged marriages is bringing two families money together.
Yep.
That in itself,
Resources.
aye. But not only that, when you have a certain network of people that they stay within that certain network of society, who they socialize with and all that sort of stuff, the chances, and I was going to use a word, but I'm not going to use the word. The chances of you picking up the term that was used today, a gallus, is slim to none. Or a gallus. Yeah, that's what it's called.
Gallus.
Yeah. The chances
gallus.
of you, because even if they do it, but it's in that certain tier, you're not exposed to a lower set of people then. And that's created a sector of classism that you don't break. You see, certain class people, you don't get the opportunity. And I'm saying you won't get a little piece here or there from a rough, but you're not gonna, they ain't good enough to take home to mama or daddy. Okay? Hold on 1 minute there. Good evening, caller. You live on Sabrina Speaks. It's after 6, Alfred.
Hello, good evening to you and the guest there.
How are you?
Good evening.
Yeah, not too bad. I listening to Nina. Making some good points and I agree with almost everything I'm saying. But let me twist the conversation a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I feel right that anybody that gonna get status or even gonna become married, like we talking about marriage, and then they're getting papers after they're married or whatever, however long.
Mm-hmm.
I think that they should give up the other nationality. I haven't heard that they should give up the other nationality. If they want to become a Caymanian citizen, give up the other nationality.
Oh, so you're saying they can't have dual citizenship?
Yeah, I don't know people with dual citizenship. That should have been on the immigration reform.
But that's constitutional as well, because we're a British overseas jurisdiction, and that is not covered under the immigration law. That would require the UK's blessings.
But can I?
Okay, you're already a UK citizen, is what I'm saying. Then I'm not saying you're already a British overseas citizen.
Yeah.
So anybody that isn't a British overseas citizen, if they want to become a Caymanian or a British overseas citizen from Cayman or whatever, they shouldn't have another. They should just give up the other nationality. They shouldn't have dual citizenship. I feel that people are getting status and even permanent residency or whatever. Sometimes you want to become a Caymanian, however way, if once you're not born Caymanian or anything given by the rights that's outlined there, or in other ways, if you coming through marriage or coming through status or whatever, you just give up. One of the requirements should be just give up the other nationality.
It's not that simple though. And
can I
go
ask
ahead.
the question?
Go ahead, Alfred.
Caller question. Thank you for sharing that, caller. I wanted to ask you, what specific problem would banning dual nationality solve, in your opinion?
That's
reducing the amount of people becoming Caymanian.
how?
And we would make them more born Caymanians. There would be more born Caymanians, and there would be more people that are patriotic to become Caymanian. Because trust me, if some of these people from a different nationality, I'm not calling no names either, was to how to give up the nationality that they come from, I bet you it won't be too much people requiring to be Caymanians. They would want to stay there or be there however way that they could, as long as they could. They're not be in no hurry to become a Caymanian citizen, you know. And then that's for the Caymanian population, you know, gradually. If that's what, you know, I know plenty of people probably don't want that. They just want boom rush the population and make us spring up overnight with Caymanians that ain't from necessarily Caymanian born, you know, or what we consider real true Caymanian people that not come from nowhere else, you know. This, that's just my thoughts on that subject.
All right. I don't think it would actually solve the problem. Not think. It won't solve the problem because if you're talking about Caymanian status and the acquisition of Caymanian status through the marriage or even permanent residence, no, it's not going to deter anything because let's focus in on becoming or acquiring Caymanian status and then renouncing your birthright. Devil's advocate, as Jim actually put up here. What if the spouse pass away and wants to return back to their country of birth? What happens then? If they were to abandon their birthright?
Well, they'll have to think. They would have to consider that before they become a Caymanian. You could be a Caymanian and you could be with the person as long as you want, but you can't become a Caymanian and you don't have the rights as one national Caymanian, without whether you're married or not.
But the system has it now that you can be an employment right certificate holder as a spouse of a Caymanian, acquire the British nationality, BOTC, still get all of the benefits without even acquiring status and still legally allowed to hold dual citizenship, not renouncing your birthright.
I know, but I'm saying that you shouldn't have that. If I'm thinking the way that I'm thinking, I wouldn't allow that. I would just be, if you want to become a Caymanian, you give up all the other nationality. Where can a Caymanian go to Caymanian born? Okay, that with that excuse that you just gave, or you just the person given a comment want to return to their own country. Where will a Caymanian return? A Caymanian can't go nowhere. A Caymanian can't say, well, I don't want to be a Caymanian no more. I want to go to another place. If he was born from Cayman, he'll have to get papers from that country, right? Give up his papers to go for that country. So the same thing would apply to this person. That once if the spouse died, he's a Caymanian. Yeah, he's a Caymanian if he get up if he get his other papers. He's a Caymanian. So the answer to that is you don't gotta go nowhere. You don't gotta go nowhere.
But caller
again and to go somewhere else. Yeah, go ahead.
But caller, I just wanted to ask you. I mean, under the current definition of Caymanian, is anybody born a Caymanian?
You mean if anybody born a Caymanian?
I mean, I get
Caymanian from.
No man, I get that. I get like if you were born here, like say you're born in the hospital, right? And your mama born here, and your grandmama born here, and everybody in your family born here up to 6, 7, 8 generations, right? Is it not the case that you have to, and this goes back now to the whole immigration thing now in the Immigration Act, is it not the case that now that as it is, everybody has to apply for the right to be Caymanian?
Well, if you were born here, you shouldn't have to apply unless you got the 18 or whatever the normal procedure is. But you shouldn't have to prove that you're a Caymanian. It should just be automatic. So once you're 18, you're given your papers as a Caymanian. You got record of you being born. You got your history, your parents or whatever. So you're a Caymanian. All that's supposed to be archived by the Cayman government so that they would know each individual. Now, if you're born from a foreign parent or whatever, and they situated here according to the law that is lined out, I'm not got a problem with the law that is opposed now, and I'm just saying this should have been something added to it too. What I'm talking about,
I don't think you're going to get support for that. That people should renounce their birthright in order to acquire Caymanian status.
Trust me, it might sound pathetic, but trust me, some people would agree with me. A lot of people would agree with me too, and trust me, that would reduce the expat population becoming Caymanians. Trust me that it will, you know. All right, then I just
what's your take then with that frame of how you're thinking? What would you support independence for Cayman? Because what's your take on the Cayman becoming independent?
Not at this time. We far behind. We're 20 years behind independence for us to think about it. We got work towards it now. We got put things in place now. Maybe 20 years we'll be there. But at this situation, it would be crazy for us to go independent.
Okay.
We'll be worse than the worst third world country that there is now. if we was to go independence within the next 5 years or anything, it would have to be between at least 20 years, I say, and we would have to start putting things in place from now. You know, that's just my thought on that one.
Well, just for a matter of record, we are all born with the right to be Caymanian, and we got to leave it there this evening. But this whole independence talk, and even more, and Jeremy Conyer says, I'm American, but he has to go to tell his Macfield baby mama and Dixon baby mama that their daughters are not Caymanian. Laugh out loud. Yeah, so that is a bigger conversation. But a caller, not to discredit your comments, because we appreciate you calling in. You always you always put a different spin to things, and that's why this space has to look and explore your suggestions. It may not go anywhere, but yeah, you are right. Probably people are saying exactly what you've said here today. You know, just put it out there. I don't think it will stick, though. It will not, because the United Kingdom does control nationality, and unless we become an independent jurisdiction, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, I agree, but I put it out there. I mean, I have been told before. I think ahead of my time, so I know that's ahead of my time, and it might sound
nothing wrong with sharing your views. We need more people to share
Danny's
their
ahead
views.
of his time as well. Danny's ahead of his time. He's just not understood. He's just not understood. Well, thank you so much, caller. Have a good evening. Well, okay. Alfred, any final thoughts on today? And I really, really enjoyed your company, and so did the guests.
I did too. I enjoy. Anytime I get to talk to you, I enjoy. And I get to talk to you.
Huh? You want to go late night talk?
Well, you're always welcome on Real Talk Love and Lies this Friday at 10 p.m.
What an episode that'll be. Anyhow.
No, I don't want Sabrina. I want LaQuisha.
You want LaQuisha? But you see, I can show my face. It is what it is. But I want to thank you so much for agreeing to coming on Sabrina Speaks this evening, and for adding a different layer, a different perspective. And I'm quite sure people love the collab. And we appreciate you. And definitely, yes, Friday evening is your show. And I tune in, even though sometimes it's after the fact. But I do enjoy where you're going with it. I want to thank everyone for tuning in and weighing in on their opinions as well. But thank you so much, Alfred, for joining me this evening. And I hope that you will not be a stranger.
Thank you for having me. And good night, everyone. Good night, Sabrina. Good night, Cayman.
Good night.
See you Friday, 10 p.m.
Yes. Thank you. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. We've come to an end of Sabrina Speaks. Thank you all so much for sticking with us this evening. And tomorrow will be another interesting topic, again, steered by you. And as we continue to follow all the news developments that's happening in our area and around the world, and we will definitely continue the conversation as it relates to immigration, because this is the consultation phase, and I'm not going to shut it down. I'm going to allow you all to participate. And if there are any questions or concerns that sparked about any of the things that are actually stated in the bill that I presented here, by all means, please send me a WhatsApp, or you can call in and be a part of the discussion. As usual, it has been my pleasure bringing you this episode of Sabrina Speaks. I welcome you back tomorrow. Sabrina Speaks is brought live every Monday to Friday from 5 until 7, going over a little later this evening. I think people are looking for that episode with me and Alfred to see the other side of Sabrina, but who to tell? We can make it happen. As I usually leave you, I want to wish you a very good evening. God bless, be safe, and as usual, love you lots. Take care. Good night. See you tomorrow.
That's a wrap for today's edition of Sabrina Speaks. Thank you for tuning in and for being part of the conversation. Remember, the dialogue doesn't stop here. Stay engaged, stay informed, and most importantly, stay empowered. We'll be back tomorrow at 5 p.m., same time, same place, right here on CMR TV and radio, where your voice matters and your truth is heard. Until then, Cayman, take care of yourself and each other.
That's it for today's edition of Sabrina Speaks, where your voice matters, your story counts, and your truth is always welcome. Join us weekdays from 5 until 6:30 p.m. right here on CMR TV as we dive into the topics that matter most to you. Catch the show live or on demand at cmrtv.com. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram so you never miss a moment. Until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and always speak your truth.